today we have the pleasure of learning from Janie Simms Hipp. Her bio is here, and don't worry, I will not read it. It is extensive, but I do urge you to take a quick peek at it because she's done a number of things that are really important. I can also tell you that last night at what o'clock?
Midnight.
Last night at midnight, she was in Denver, so
Praying, purpling.
to say that she made a Hail Mary to get here would be an understatement. So please join me in welcoming Miss Janie Simms Hipp.
So am I on? I'm from Audubon, number one, and I'm from a long line of school teachers, and so I usually can project without need of this. But am I good?
Yeah.
And I was actually here in 1973 through 75 as a student, and Elizabeth and I were reminiscing about streaker night on the strip and things like that. You don't have to actually take that part. I love OSU. My fondest memories of getting started in college were here. My scholarship money ran out. I'm still holding it against you. And so, I know. And so I ended up transferring to OU. So I always put a caveat that my heart was in Stillwater, always. I'm over at U of A now, and I'll get started here in a minute after I give you my bona fides. I'm a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. I'm a very proud citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. And greetings to all of you all who are here, and thank you for taking the time to come. Some of you in the room, like Donna, know that for probably the last 35 years of my life, I've really focused heavily on food and agriculture, and specifically the overlay of self-governance, the role of tribal governments, but not just tribal governments, but all Native peoples in the area of food and agriculture. And so what I'm going to say today may cause people to, yeah, I'm really notorious for really not holding back. And there's a few people scattered around here who have known me a really long time and know that to be true. So I'm not going to hold back at all today. I'm Chickasaw, but I grew up deep in Choctaw. Audubon, as you all know, is almost before you roll off of the map. And so I grew up with one foot in Arkansas and one foot in Oklahoma. My dad's side of the family is my Chickasaw side of the family. My mom's side of the family is not Native at all. And I'm old. I'm 62. Doesn't seem old. I mean, if I can be alive at midnight tapping my foot for a pilot somewhere, then I figure I'm still good. But my life right now is pretty hectic. And Donna knows this, and some of you also may know it, and I can go into it if you're interested in it. But there has emerged from an 18-year litigation called the Keepseagle case. And it was a civil rights case against the U.S. Department of Agriculture for discrimination in credit and access to credit. It was a national class action. All Native farmers and ranchers were affected by this class action. One of the epicenters of claims was here in Oklahoma. But what emerged out of this really long piece of litigation was what is called in the law a Sacré fund. And I've just been selected as the executive director of that fund. And we have a 14-member board of trustees. All of the trustees have a deep history in Native food and agriculture or higher education or philanthropy. And that's about all I can tell you right now, because we are literally in the earliest stages of standing up the largest philanthropic effort in Indian country ever, focused on food, focused on the needs of farmers and ranchers, Native farmers and ranchers. We are at a moment, and I mentioned, and I'm starting off with that because I think we are at a moment. And we're at a moment where not just because of that, but because of a lot of other issues, not the least of which is health and nutrition, access to food, food security. We're just at this moment, all of Indian country is across the country. And quite frankly, though, I'll tell you that as an agricultural lawyer who's done agricultural law since the 80s, the whole country is at a moment around food, around agriculture production, around how we're all going to deal with a lot of issues that we all know, if we're in this room, are hitting us already. Climate change, I don't care what your politics are about it, wake up. I have friends who are in North Carolina right now, and they are done for a while. And so this is going to continue on, you guys. And not only that, the population continues to grow. The access to arable land continues to diminish. We're going to have to all get our heads right about this because the whole country and the whole world is going to continue to need to focus on food and agriculture. And I say that not because, well, I say that partially because this is my life, and I want everybody to think food and ag is as sexy as I think it is. You know, I mean, Donna knows this. I'm just like all over this. I'll take any conversation you give me, and it will become about food. And so I'm an ag lawyer. But, you know, I do think we're at that moment where not just in Indian country, but around the country, we're going to have to pay better attention to food policy, to agricultural policy, to where we're all going to go together, or we're going to start fighting a lot about food. And it's coming. So, anyway, I'm going to spend just a minute walking through some slides. I always put Elizabeth too much in my slides. I can't help it. Y'all are my class for today, and this is all on test. When I teach these kinds of principles, I always get the, is this going to be on the test? So everything that comes out of my mouth is on the test, and then you get a pop quiz the next morning. So don't ask that question. But when I started doing ag law, I could call a tribal headquarters, and I could say, let me talk to your ag people. And they go, what? It was like they were doing other stuff besides agriculture. If I call a tribal headquarters today and I say, let me talk to your ag people, they will actually send me to an office that has multiple people in it. Because the reality is, and they may not come and talk to you a lot about it, but there are hundreds of tribes all around the U.S. that are deeply engaged in food sovereignty assessments right now to figure out where they stand with regard to food. And we're going to get into that in just a second, if it's okay. But as in any class, please interrupt me. Sometimes I actually literally just stay on the first slide, which is frustrating for me. On the way over here, my husband, who left to take a nap, I think, because he drives me everywhere. Thank God I have him, or you couldn't be as crazy as I am and not do it without some support. So he always says, what's the definition? I go, shut up. But food sovereignty is a very personal thing. I mean, I can go to any, I can go to any tribe and I'm going to get a different answer. I can go to any non-native ag group and I'm going to get a different answer there. This is what came out in 1996. So as we're talking about food sovereignty, as a principle in the law or in the policy arena or in geography, or you pick the discipline. These things started emerging around that time. And I was like, why? Why not 1986 or 76? I think we're all kind of in the same boat. We just assume food is going to be there, right? read anything to y'all, okay? I don't do that. And I am going to leave these slides, Elizabeth. I'm a lawyer. I'm an ag lawyer. Ag law, go to Arkansas. I had to put my pitch in. But I always underline that because, and then when I always talk about this issue, you know you become mainstream when the concepts you talk about are talked about in the middle of an urban center like San Francisco or New York City. I mean, I can go speak in New York City and people go, oh, we're doing food sovereignty. And I'm going, you're probably not doing it the same way the Chickasaw Nation is doing it. Because I always differentiate because it's small f, small s, but for many tribal governments, it's capital F, capital S. I hope that makes sense. And for all people, and again, here I go, agriculture and food law, food and agriculture is among the most heavily regulated arena in our lives. But all of us don't really know that. I can take you to the law library and stand you in front of the Code of Federal Regulations, and there'll be a huge swath that's just agriculture. And then you start adding on natural resources and nutrition and all this, and that's just the federal. But if you actually look in the law, big law, most agriculture regulation and laws are at the state and local level, and they always have been. Why? Because land use is at the state and local level, and property law is at the state and local level. There's a lot of things in this country that are not at the federal level. That's not where the federal law is written. And people go, well, what is the Farm Bill? The Farm Bill is a vehicle to get money out the door. Sorry, I've actually worked in the Secretary's office in D.C., and that's what that Farm Bill is. It's an omnibus bill to establish some policy, but the vast majority is a delivery mechanism into the states and localities. Tribal governments have historically been missing from that equation. And I'm going to go into that in just a minute. But I always do kind of pull up that definition just so you know. So if you want to dig more about it, at the international level, there's a lot going on. I don't focus on the international legal principles around right to food or food law or anything like that because they drive me crazy. You know why? Because this country really does not ever, under any administration, like the idea of an international legal mechanism where we lose our sovereignty. Sorry, it is what it is. It's nice, it's principles, they're important, but as a lawyer, I always look, can it be enforced? And that's where we have a problem, in my opinion. So, having given that, do you just forget about it and just blow off food sovereignty? No, you get yourself together. And the other thing I tell people all the time too is you can be sovereign in your own home around food. And you guys at this table can be sovereign in your block and in your Stillwater and in this county. Sovereignty is a different concept than just what a legal mechanism is. It's literally, if a disaster happens, are you going to be able to eat? And do you know where your food is coming from? And how are you going to get it? I mean, that's, the people in Lumberton, North Carolina, are wondering that right now. And so they're really, food sovereignty is real for them. This is another forum at the international level. You can read it on your own. But there are these forums that are coming up here and there. I've been involved in UN discussions, at least 4 different ones, around these issues. So it is emerging as a field. So national, state, local, this is just a smattering of how the legal structures sit. And people go, God, I have no idea. Do we have to regulate everything? Food can kill you. Yes, we actually do need to regulate it. This is one of those areas which has been really important, food safety, The food safety legal structure in the U.S. has been splintered among 13 federal agencies for about 40 years. Hello? Do you think they're coordinated? It's a miracle we're not all sick all the time, but we're not. Why? You know why I think? It's because the people who are involved in food production don't want to be sued by you. They need to have a business that's stable. And so therefore, there is actually more done on the commercial side of things to do prevention and to get out in front of food safety issues than there is actually. When you have an inspector who knocks on the door, you're in trouble. Your lawyers who are advising you not to kill people with your food, you should have gotten a call from them a long 2 or 3 weeks before the inspectors show up. So we have an Oklahoma Department of Ag person here. And Tina Gunter is a good friend of mine. She's great. She's fantastic. She does general counsel. She was one of my students. Anyway, so I'm sure I gave her an A.
I'll remember about that.
So everybody goes, well, state, local, federal, international, where are tribes? Tribes have historically not been in this space, but our initiative at the University of Arkansas, Indigenous Food and Ag Initiative, for the last 3 years has been working on a comprehensive model food and agriculture code. And yes, it's just, I can't help it. I'm a lawyer. I like to write code. Sorry. But my desire, I think I just wrote this. My desire was, before I go to the facility to live out my days, I want to have a code written. Do you, as Chickasaw, Cherokee, Choctaw, blah, 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 Pawnee, you don't have to adopt this. That's up to you. But every state has a code. Every country has a code. Localities have a code. And it is expensive to write a code. And so we have raised money for the last 3 years to build this for free. And so we are offering it up later this fall. It's going to be published, available online for every tribe to use, but we're already getting calls from all over the country saying, all right, come on. We need you to talk to our people and talk to our lawyers and talk to our tribal council, figure out what we're supposed to do. So it is literally soup to nuts. And here's why. I mean, there's so many reasons to do this, and this is kind of one of those slides. Protecting your culture and traditions, protecting your food, but knowing where it is. I mean, what do you do with somebody, actually there's a tribe in the eastern part of the country that is having trespassers come onto their land and harvest their food out from under them. Well, I need to be able to prosecute those trespassers to my food. I mean, there's so many pieces of this puzzle. And then there's a lot of tribes that are investing in food businesses as a means of economic diversification and economic development. And that is on the rise everywhere. And so, and I would be in trouble. Let's give our young people an opportunity to have a living, make a living and feed us at home. Do we have to send all of our kids somewhere else? No, we do not. And one of the things our initiative has done from the beginning in partnership with the National Ag Council and several others, FFA, National FFA, the Farm Credit Administration, is we have brought young people, young Native people from all over the country onto our campus. And their moms call me and they say, are you going to teach my child how to raise our traditional foods? I go, no, that is your job. But it's not my job. First of all, why would you want me to do that? First of all, second of all, you live in a desert. Arkansas is not a desert. It's very wet. And so what my pushback to them is there's a whole lot of other things your young people need to know. If this is going to be their life's work. They need to know about the policies, the regulations. They need to know about land tenure. Who's my land tenure person back there? They need to know about how food moves. And what we have seen in these in our initiative summits is that, and I bet y'all see it on this campus too, people really don't understand the breadth and scope of jobs in food. They tend to think it's all, plows and cows? It's not. Y'all know this. You're a land grant. If you don't know it, you need to go back to orientation. But, I mean, it's huge, but most people don't know that. It's just not in their realm of consciousness. And so when the young people come in, I mean, I look at them the first day and they all call me mama, which is quite a responsibility. But I look at them and I say, I can't wait for you to be 40 to decide what you want to do with your life. The food needs you now. You're 14, I want you to go back home and I want you to assess with your tribal leaders where your food is. Are y'all going to be able to feed yourselves in a crisis? And we have 14-year-olds that are going back to Warm Springs on the coast and taking charge of the food sovereignty assessment for their tribe. And then complain on Facebook because I'm 16, I need a full-time job in this area. Why will not anybody hire me? And I was like, I don't know. I would hire you tomorrow. I moved to Arkansas, but you're 16. I mean, we've got young people, young Native people all over the country who are on fire. You know this, don't you? They're on fire for this issue, for this whole issue. So I'm excited because Secretary Vilsack used to look at me and go, where are we going to get 100,000 new farmers every year? I said, I know where about 75,000 are every year. So it's turn me loose. Anyway, code, what's in our code? And I know I'm taking y'all into lawyer land, sorry. But these are the areas that are in state codes already. And there's an inkling of legal issues at the federal level in some of these areas, and international conventions, but if you actually look, most of these are at the state and local level. There's another slide. Department of Ag, you know this. You got a pile of them, right? There's another one. And if I am talking to somebody for the first time around this stuff, they go, what? There's that many code sections around food? But think about it. Of course there are. So this code we're developing is literally this tall at this point. But our job, we felt, was to take an attempt to do it and then turn it over to tribal legal counsel and tribal lawyers and tribal counsel and say, try it on for size. Tweak it to your heart's content. This is just a starting point. And honestly, that's what states do. They all get together and do model codes, and then they go, this won't work in Oklahoma. And so that's exactly what we're building. So that's where I got all my gray hair. It's all come in the last 3 years. That's not true. But food safety regulation is a good example of why this is necessary. When food is grown on a piece of dirt that is under tribal jurisdiction, the state cannot come onto that land and inspect. They certainly can't cite. So who does? If you go to some areas of the country, Indian Health Service will tell you that they do. As a federal, partner agency with the tribes. BIA doesn't want to have anything to do with this. Nothing. And in some areas of the country, tribal governments have already stood up food inspectors, but they're normally for retail purposes, not on the ground, on the farm. And that's where all the regulation is moving, is onto the farm, or has moved. Native foods move across jurisdictions regularly. If you're a truck driver and you're moving food, your boss knows all the laws of transportation for every place you're going, because they do change. when I drive food from Oklahoma into California, when I'm gonna get over to California, somebody at the border is likely to take my app and throw it away. Why? Because of pests. You could destroy half of their GDP in California when you transport pests. So these things happen. And so, you know, there's as many tribes are moving into this space very rapidly, this movement issue in transportation is huge. But the inspection on the farms cannot be done at the state level absent a compact between the tribal governments and the state. Now maybe that tribe says, I don't want to have to deal with that, but they cannot just willy-nilly send their inspectors onto that land. It cannot be done. I mean, it can be done, but somebody's going to get a lawsuit over it. Just count on it. It may not happen here, and I think I've just lost it. So, there's also some really interesting federal laws in this area. This would be a great article for somebody. And I think there's only been one written about it so far. But in 1993, there was a law passed called the American Indian Ag Resource Management Act. And if a tribe takes that act and does the 2-year planning process around that act, and it's comprehensive, then that act shall control the use of their lands for agricultural purposes, period. So right now, we're working with Blackfeet up in Montana, and they just showed their entire ag resource management plan to their tribal council yesterday, and have been conferring with the Department of Interior all along the way. So this is happening right now. It's happening in more than one tribe, in more than one place. Pawnee have had your ag resource management plan on the books for over a decade, at least. So, but not every tribe has them. Why? This is the 25th anniversary of that act. And so what's happening right now, because I've talked to tribal leadership all over the place on these issues, is there are multiple tribes that are saying, no, we cannot ignore this act. Food is important to our people. We have to be secure in our food. And I have some really good friends at the Farm Credit System. And there are actually states, and you all know this, where oral leases, like, I'm going to lease you my land, okay, we just talk about it, are still the predominant way that land is leased for agricultural purposes. It's crazy. Why would you do that? I don't get it. But if you actually put forth agricultural leasing components within this, and in addition to that ag resource piece, add to that the ag leasing under the Hearth Act, which was a more recent federal law, 2 laws, then I, as a young person on Chickasaw Nation land, I can actually get up to a 75-year lease for agricultural purposes. If you are a beginning farmer and rancher in the whole United States, you would die for a 75-year lease. Are you kidding me? And my farm credit people, I'll walk in and go, would you think, I keep picking on you because you're so close, I'm sorry. My farm credit friends will go, I'll look at them and go, would you think that a 75-year lease would actually be kind of an attractive credit risk? And they go, are you kidding me? Bring it. Bring it. Because we're seeing non-native young people who are trying to lease and they have 1-year lease. Think about collateralizing anything you're trying to do to build your operation with a 1-year lease. The banking system, unless you know somebody, doesn't think too highly about that. So it's a very important, that's a kind of an overarching issue that's important to everybody. So the law itself actually says that those plans shall govern. That's not me making up shall in the law. Hearth Act basically says, in a more succinct way than the other act, it's the same sort of coupling of those authorities. You all constantly are having right to farm issues, are you not? I know you are. I keep track of what happens in my home state. You know, right to farm is a way to protect the farmer. Why? Most right to farm statutes were written at the moment when suburbia was encroaching on farmland. And guess what, you guys? It continues to encroach. Right to farm was never meant to be a protection of humongous operations from environmental regulation. That is a common iteration and argument today. They were actually put in place so that you could move into next to my farm that's been there for 50 years and complain because it stinks. It's literally a protection against nuisances for small to mid-sized farmers. That was the reason why those laws came to pass. Well, guess what? We still need those. Why? Because you live in the city and you don't want to see the dust and the stink. And you don't want a rooster crowing and waking you up in the morning. You're spoiled. Sorry. And you're also a dean, I'm sorry.
What are you spoiled?
But he's spoiled. I kind of knew that. But it is. Let's get real about this, people. I mean, if you're a farmer and a rancher, you're kind of used to people thinking you got stuff on your boots. And I'm kind of sick of it. Where do you think your food comes from? It doesn't just kind of miraculously appear in the microwave. Somebody has to get dirty and sweat to make it happen. So nobody's going to, I'm the biggest advocate for farmers and ranchers ever. Sorry, I know you are too. We've been knowing each other a long time. We even tried to steal her at some point. But the role of tribal elected officials is really, really important. You know, and tribal councils are no different than anybody else. A lot of them have never worked on a farm. I mean, they're a generation removed, right? So there's just a lot going on, but they have a huge responsibility, and I've been trying to spread that word to them. Anyway, here we go into who's a data nerd? Surely to God, every one of you are. You're instructors and professors. Who knows what the 2017 numbers are going to show us? August. That's what the most recent ag census shows us. Each dot is 10 farms. Those are all native farms. I mean, y'all are kind of like covered up, right? It's crazy. But in 1990, this was counted as one farm. Navajo Nation was counted by the ag census as one farm. Do you think we're maybe undercounted? I think perhaps we are. NAS even says we are by at least half, if not more. Farm Credit has actually done a deeper dive on the data, and that's where they show native farm. We're everywhere. Anyway, food deserts. Why are the food deserts where our land is if we're all farming? Y'all know the answer to this. You're in a land grant. All of the food we grow is going that way. None of it is staying to feed us. There's actually tribes up in the south, North Dakota, that have one convenience store for a land base the size of Connecticut, and their entire land base is being used for agriculture. There's no excuse for anybody on that reservation being hungry, period. But it's all outflowing. It's not, even a piece of it is not staying. We can't do this anymore. And honestly, take away native and do Oklahoma. Do the same information for this state. I mean, good grief. Young people don't want to do this. Wrong. Again, y'all are covered up. These are native kids. And I know young people in the western part of the country who have left their reservations to go to school off reservation to do FFA. Really? Is that what we're doing? There's 60,000 native 4-H'ers every year, all generally in the same place. That's what the Ag Census shows. We're all over the place, to the chagrin of the cattle people and the native ranchers. Poultry is kind of big, right? It's like, let's not tell anybody. You know, and I know all about the poultry wars that are heating up again. Don't get me started. The largest contiguous farm in the U.S. is Navajo. And if you actually look within each one of those states, in the top 10 farms, you will have at least 1, if not 6, native farms, tribal-owned farms. This is my favorite data point. Of the 26 million acres of land engaged in agriculture in Arizona, 20 million of it is controlled by tribes. Yet, the land grant, until recently, only had one project that was focused on the needs of tribal producers. Why? That's not right. When all the land base, basically, is tribal-owned farms. And I didn't make this up. This is all out of the census data. Anyway, so this is how it all shakes out. Oklahoma is what, 1 or 2 on both lists. And it wasn't you all, but 15 years ago, I was in a 100% extension appointment in Arkansas, and I was coming over here to talk to tribes. And the director of extension here called the director of extension in Arkansas and says, "What is she doing over here?" Because y'all know how parochial we are, right? Y'all, you know I'm telling the truth.
Well, I thought it was free labor.
Well, basically, that's what he said. She's doing what you won't do. I didn't come here to be mean to you, but that's what the dialogue, I didn't even know about it. I was just wandering over to talk to tribes. This is who I am, and this is what I do. So then I'm pulling this up only because some people go, where are they? They're in every single county. And you all, just like everybody, ignores this. I dare you, I double dog dare you to do an economic impact of Indian agriculture for this state. I think you'd be shocked. But they're not coming to their, native farmers are not coming to their own tribal headquarters for help. They're coming to you. They're coming to you. This is the place they should come, right? Why should my tribe stand up at OSU? It's not necessary. So anyway, I pulled up just some counties. And this is 2012 versus 2017. But look at the market value within those counties. And this is out of the Ag Census. Look at Osage. Good grief, it's just crazy. Anyway, food security is a big driver of this. Nutrition and health is a big driver of this. Economic diversification is a big driver of this. And native youth are critical. And guess what? This is where they need to come. This is where they need to go to school. If I have to clean up after Harvard one more time, I'm going to throw a gasket. I swear to you. Because I have tribal leaders calling me saying, Harvard came and told us that we should just depopulate our herds. And we did it about 3 years ago, but we're cattle people. This is who we are. Can you help us run the numbers so we can repopulate? And that's what they're doing. But why? If you don't have, sorry if anybody's in Harvard from Harvard, sorry, ahead of time. If you don't have a veterinary school or a livestock science department, why are you advising a tribe about livestock? Maybe I'm just from Audubon and I'm too simple. That's not common sense. Don't talk to them. And so when I say this in public, and I usually get booed out of the room, this is all over the place. One of the tribes in the southeast part of the country went from a backyard garden to a greenhouse, to raising food, to straight into Whole Foods within 5 years. Tribes are willing to step up and put their resources where their mouth is and actually get this built. So this idea is, well, what are we going to do about ag infrastructure? You're not even talking to the right people. You need to be talking to every single tribal council and all the tribes' leadership and all of their farmers here. And in Arkansas, I'm not excluding myself at all. This needs to be happening everywhere. We're going to need Native engagement in agriculture. We already have it. We just ignore it. Quapaw, y'all don't even tell you what they're doing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And they are the trendsetter and the standard bearer for everything. And John Berry is incredible. He literally is like an open book. You come and we will help you. You know, I just think OSU has such potential to just slide right along with them. Never mind that he is on the Arkansas Alumni Advisory Body. We'll share. But it's really important. This is the Blackfeet ARNP team. They pull down the slides. I'll send them to you. You can actually see the entire process they went through. I just look at it and I think, God, our land grant faculty could just slide right in there and help that happen in a heartbeat. Here's some other things. This is the Quapaw opening. This is the Native Farm Bill Coalition. In June of last year, Regaining Our Future is a report that I was commissioned to do by the Shakopee, Minnewacan Sioux community in Minnesota. They are big. They have a Seeds of Native Health campaign that is focusing on Native health and nutrition and the intersection of traditional science and Western science around health. It's amazing what they're doing. But they commissioned that report, and the report literally was, what is the Farm Bill, Janie? So I said, if I'm doing this, I'm doing an epistle. I'm not going to just pick one chapter and call it good. So it is that thick. But we walked through the entire Farm Bill, and the premise was, here's what it says in the last iteration. Why should Indian country care? And I'll make the case for why we should care on every single chapter, including the commodities. You would be shocked how many tribes are active participants in crop insurance, active participants in the commodity farm program payments. I mean, they're there. But it's just harder to deliver all of those programs on our land because we live in a legal jurisdiction that's different. Donna teaches that, right? It's different. Might as well be on Mars. So, anyway, the Native Farm Bill Coalition arrived on the scene last October, a year. And right now we have 170 tribes who are involved in that coalition across the board, very active on the Hill right now around Farm Bill issues. It looks like all of the issues that they've been pushing for are likely to get in. And that picture was sitting down with Conway's staff to actually go over the provisions that the tribes are pushing for. So that's not going to be my telephone number very much longer. So sorry. I will keep you posted. Elizabeth will know how to reach me, but thanks.